Hi, I'm Coach Corey Wayne, and this is my video coaching newsletter. And the topic of today's newsletter is going to be All We Are Is Dust in the Wind. The inspiration comes from obviously the great Kansas song, Dust in the Wind. It was a big hit in the 1970s. I love that song. There's so many great lines in there that talks about how it's, because you probably, if you've been following me for a while, I talk about this a lot. It's everybody you love, everything you build in life is eventually going to turn to dust. So the only thing you can really do with your life is find a way to enjoy it, find a way to give it away in some kind of form of service to your fellow man and women, obviously. Don't forget the ladies. And so this particular guy's had a lot of things go sideways in his life, and he met the love of his life a while back. He's 37 years old, and he came across my work several years ago, but guess what? He didn't read the book. He cherry-picked, and then he lost the woman of his dreams, and so he came back and read the book about a month ago. And so this is a success story of a guy that lost the love of his life. Is like, oh, that's the worst thing in the world. When you really lose somebody you care about and she doesn't want to be with you anymore. Most guys typically chase and pursue that woman to the point where she loses all respect and interest, or she friend zones them or ghosts them or whatever it happens to be. And they go from a girl being hot for you to literally completely ignoring you. It's the worst thing in the world. One of the reasons why, if you guys saw the video that I did with Chunky and the girls about, because people have asked me for years about Andrew Tate and what I thought about him. And after looking at if you've seen the Full Send podcast and some of those other podcasts that he's been on in the last year, where he was bragging about how he was ripping dudes off and making these guys think that they were going to meet his webcam girls. And you say, oh, well, that guy was a sucker for thinking he's going to meet a webcam girl. I've done plenty of phone sessions over the years with guys that actually did end up dating and getting into relationships with those webcam girls. A lot of them are pretty messed up, but the point being is he was doing it on purpose and ripping guys off in the worst way, getting guys so wound up that they're taking equity out of their houses. And the women, well, actually the dudes that are actually doing the typing, because he said the women weren't even typing. They're just sitting there smiling and pretending to type in the keyboard. And he literally got some man that he's actually messaging with. He's a pretty girl on screen, but it's actually a man behind the keyboard that's just trying to manipulate the guy to get him to part with his money. It's like Jesus Christ, dude. That's a horrible thing to do to people. Character is destiny. When you have that kind of an attitude towards your fellow human beings, I should say, it's like, how are you supposed to respect somebody like that? It's like, you just can't. It's not a good person. Even though he might teach a lot of truth, especially truth that he's obviously heard and learned from me, because I've seen him on podcasts literally regurgitating things word for word right out of my book. But that's another topic for another day. Or maybe you can go see the video, Andrew Tate, Victim or Villain, that I did. So let's go through this guy's email and see his success story. So he says, Virtue Gladiator, I salute you. I don't think I've ever been called a virtue gladiator, but hey, thanks. He says, thanks, Coach. Thank you so very much. You were right. You were right about everything. Well, truth is self-evident. If you think I'm full of shit, if you apply what's in my book, you will see that it works for you. I'm 37 years of age, and I've been very successful with females all my life. It's funny when I see people with females. I've also had a life full of tragedy, with my brother taking his own life 7 years ago, amongst other things, resulting in me losing hope in myself and giving up hope for my future. Yeah, that's the way life is, man. It is harsh. Things come out of the blue. People die suddenly on you. Just, it's like, man, life is it's a series of tragedies, basically. And it never ends. And well, eventually it ends for all of us, but there's just always something going sideways. Or somebody you know, it's got difficult things going on in their life. And all you can do is be grateful for where you're at, because this shit is not going to last. He says, when this year I met an extremely attractive 26-year-old female who makes me feel things I thought I'd never feel again. Admittedly, I became fearful I was going to lose her, which caused me to push her away. It even went from her chasing me to me ruining everything and chasing her away. Yeah, speaking of Andrew Tate, he's like, he literally laughing about how he would manipulate guys and have women basically say, I don't want to talk to you anymore, and then purposely spend a period of time ghosting the guy to get him really emotionally hooked. And then so when he came back, he would part with even more of his money. It's like, that's just such dirtbag criminal behavior. That's like the Nigerian prince scam. It's disgusting. I thought I'd completely ruined everything. Now I came across your videos a number of years ago, but it wasn't until a month ago that I finally purchased your book and listened to it at least 7 times from start to finish. Long story short, I went into a mode of non-contact, and she reached out to me. It's true. It worked. He says, I can't stop crying. I'm so happy. I just had the best night with her, and I did everything perfectly. Because I read your book multiple times, I believe I now know what I must do to keep her attraction at a 9 or 10 level. Don't get cocky. You need to read the book 10 to 15 times, but the important thing is you got to apply it. You can't just read it 10 to 15 times and start hooking up with her again and think, hey, I got it. This is all handled and settled. At least once or twice a year, you should go back through it. And so I would say at least if you've done your 15 reads, which I don't think he has, but once you get to that, I would say probably in 6 months. And then a year after that, I would read it again just one more time because you'll get soft and lazy over many months that you're together. He says, I'm so grateful and I wish everybody could feel this good. Love is the best drug. Well, keep in mind, that's not going to last either. The infatuation that you're feeling now lasts typically 6 to 12 months. And then as long as you made a good choice and selected a good, healthy woman, then she's worth making the effort for because the courtship is never going to end, and you always must make her feel heard and understood. So he says, yo, coach, I forgot to mention the fundamental basics. Don't put her on a pedestal. Let her be a cat. Be indifferent and allow her to pursue me. That's the fucking goal, coach. Boom. Thank you. So I would much rather, as a man, as a human being, you're going to feel much better about yourself when you sow good things into the world and you have a guy crying because he's so happy, not like what scumbag Andrew Tate did to dudes where he's fucking ripping them off and making them feel the worst pain of rejection because they got manipulated by him and his band of scam artists. So it's like, I don't have any respect for somebody that behaves that way. And somebody that has that kind of mentality that does that shit to guys, it's like eventually he's gonna receive that karma really badly. And someday he's gonna regret it. You know, I've seen guys in the comments on that video, the Andrew Tate video that we did, victim or villain, you know, basically trying to make excuses for, well, he's a good guy now, he's helping guys. I was like, he's still a scam artist. If there's a way to rip people off, he's going to continue to do it because that's just character. It's just the way he is. He doesn't seem remorseful at all. People are like, oh, he's totally changed. That was years ago. It's like, well, if you look at the podcast from last year where he's talking about it and he really lays out how he scammed everybody, he thinks it's pretty funny. And, you know, a lot of the guys, especially the Full Send podcast, those dudes were all laughing along like with Andrew Tate instead of calling him out on his bullshit. And all the rest of the interviews that he did were all pretty much softball interviews. And you can tell he's lying and BSing his way all the way through it. But, hey, man, karma's going to come for that dude. He's not going to be able to run it and outrun it. Neither is his brother or the rest of the people that they're involved with. And that's a universal principle. That's why I take peace. I wrote about mastering yourself. I had a guy that was basically had paid somebody off at the answering service who was answering all of our phone calls from our television advertising back when I was in real estate and stealing all of our leads. And you can't outrun. Eventually we figured out what was going on, and why all the leads dried up is because this cocksucker was stealing them all. Criminal mentality. And so what happened to him? He was driving home one night, and had borrowed another friend's pickup truck, and I guess a little girl rode across the road. It was dark. There were no street lights, and he swerved to miss her, and he hit a telephone pole, and it snapped, and it fell over, and the engine got pushed back into the cab, and it pinned him in the car. The gas tank was ruptured, and so you got the power lines going, zzz, 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 sparks flying everywhere. And of course the gas ignites, and there were people that heard the crash, came out, and he's screaming, "Get me out, get me out." And they basically watched this dude slowly burn to death in the car. And so you screw people over, man, the karma that comes for you is going to be pretty bad. And so especially people that take my work and they use it to manipulate people, it's like, you're gonna reap what you sow, dudes. So if you got a question or a challenge and you'd like to get my help, go to understandingrelationships.com, click the products tab at the top of your screen, and book a coaching session with yours truly. Until next time, I will talk to you soon.